For a second straight month, we have seen year-over-year price declines in the Omaha market. Inventory continues to climb. In fact, we have not seen this many homes on the active market since November of 2016. Interest rates remain elevated and the number of closed sales are down. What does this mean if you're buying a home in Omaha, Nebraska? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video, and we're going to get after it right now. If you're new here, my name is David and I make videos all about living in Omaha, and I'm also a real estate agent. And with that, let's dive into the latest numbers from the Great Plains Multiple Listing Service so it will help you make some sense of what is happening in the Omaha market. For reference, we're going to be looking at Douglas and Sarpy County, Nebraska. Douglas County is the home to the city of Omaha with towns of Bennington, Ralston, Waterloo, and Valley, Nebraska. Sarpy County is located just south of Douglas County and is home to the cities of Bellevue, Papillion, La Vista, Gretna, and Springfield, Nebraska. In terms of population, the state of Nebraska has a total population of just over 2 million people, and 40% of the state's population resides in these two counties. Real estate is all about supply and demand, so let's look at the supply side and talk about the current inventory. Currently, we have 2,132 homes on the active market. Year over year, inventory is up 9.7% compared to June of 2024. More inventory is good for buyers, and over the past several years, all you've heard about was the lack of inventory. Well, that has changed. There's one certainty that you'll see in any real estate market, and that is changed. The market is always changing. If you're a buyer, more inventory means more choices and more opportunity. It also means you have the ability to negotiate and the opportunity to do your own due diligence. It means you can do inspections, and when repairs are necessary, you can negotiate repairs. Depending on how long the home has been on the market, you might even be able to negotiate a little off the purchase price. If you're a seller, you have to understand this is a completely different market than the pandemic market. Sellers no longer hold all the cards. If you're selling, you have to be realistic about your listing price. It also means if you're selling, 9 times out of 10, that buyer will be conducting a home inspection, and more than likely, the buyer will be asking for some repairs. Selling your home is not fun. It takes a lot of work to sell your home. The real work takes place before your home hits the market. As inventory increases, you face more competition. In order for your home to stand out, you have to be priced right and you have to prepare your home for sale. And that includes decluttering, cleaning, staging, and being proactive in terms of repairs. Have the furnace and AC cleaned and serviced, and then go through and do all of those honeydew repairs. All of those things that you haven't done that need to be done now. The preparation is important in order for great photos. Your first showing occurs online. If you're a buyer, are you going to get a steal in the current market? No. You might get a deal, but you're not going to get a steal. Homes still sell for market value. If a home is priced right, it will still sell close to list price. Speaking of home values, I have a free tool available to homeowners. If you'd like to know the value of your home, just scan the QR code and enter your information and you'll have access to my exclusive home valuation tool called HomeBot. Again, it's free and there's no obligation. And it's kind of a fun way to track your home's value. Now let's talk about the current market. What we have now is a more normal market. Let's look at inventory now and compare it to the inventory over the past 10 years. In June of 2025, we have 2,132 homes on the active market. Let's compare today's inventory to the inventory of 4 years ago. In June of 2021, we had 926 homes on the active market in Douglas and Sarpy County. Was that healthy? No. Those were the days where homes were receiving 10 to 15 offers and homes were selling in our market $30,000 to $40,000 over list price. That was simply unsustainable. If we look at home prices back then, in June of 2021, the median closed sales price of a home in Douglas and Sarpy County was $265,000. If we look back at interest rates in June of 2021 for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage was just over 3%. If you were able to buy a home back then, you did well. Congratulations. Unfortunately, many buyers were unable to buy at that times unless they were cash buyers or they were willing to waive the home inspection. We all knew that market was unsustainable. Since then, home prices have gone up and interest rates have gone up. Rates had to go up because the Fed had to put the brakes on inflation. Let's go back and look at inventory pre-pandemic. In June of 2019, we had 1,733 homes on the active market. In June of 2018, we had 1,864 homes on the active market. In June of 2017, we had 1,945 homes on the active market. In June of 2016, we had 2,078 homes on the active market. In June of 2015, we had 2,481 homes on the active market. So if we compare the inventory of 2025, we have not had this many homes on the active market since 2015. So it's been 10 years since we've had this many homes on the active market. The big difference was interest rates. In the years 2015 to 2019, we had interest rates below 5%. People could afford to purchase a home. Those days are gone. Now, will rates come back down? Well, that's the million-dollar question. If you do buy a home, don't count on rates coming back down. Be comfortable with the payment you have because nobody knows what's around the corner. The other thing that happens in summer, inventory continues to rise. If you look at this chart, inventory continues to increase until fall. Then inventory decreases as many homeowners take their homes off the market during the winter months. This happens every year and it'll happen again next year. If you're a buyer, and that is good, keep looking. If you're a buyer on the sidelines, don't ignore new construction. Keep all of your options open. Go ahead and take a look at new construction now. That way it buys you time. Depending on the builder, going under contract now means you lock in your purchase price before they increase prices next year. Last month, I had some clients who just closed on a new construction home. We started last summer, we went under contract in the fall, and this spring they put their current home on the market. They were able to close on their existing home and move directly into their new construction property. All because we had a plan and we started early. Now, if you have an agent, that's great. But if you don't, and if you're looking to interview agents, my contact information is available on the screen. Don't hesitate to reach out. If you're looking to buy a home, the governor just signed into law a bill requiring a buyer-broker agreement before touring a property. The buyer-broker agreement spells out the duties of your agent, how the agent will be compensated, and the length of the agreement. Here's the deal. When you write an offer, you can ask the seller to pay for the cost of your buyer's agent. Most sellers are willing to compensate a buyer's agent, but there's no guarantee. If a seller doesn't agree to pay your agent, then you'll have to pay the cost of your agent out of your own pocket. What I have seen in the Omaha area, most sellers are grateful and are willing to compensate a buyer's agent, especially when the market gets a little bit tougher for sellers. Anytime we're talking about commissions, remember that commissions are always negotiable. If you're buying a home, you're going to be shopping for not just a home, but also for an agent. Be sure to find an agent you're comfortable with. If you decide to go the new construction route, be sure your agent is with you on your first visit. Most builders have a policy in place that says your agent has to be with you on your first visit to a model home. inventory is up, what has this done for home prices? The median closed sales price in June for Douglas and Sarpy County was $338,000. That is down 0.4% from 2024. That is the second month in a row we have seen year-over-year price declines in Douglas and Sarpy County. Now, is that cause for alarm? Not at all. What we're seeing, prices are starting to level off, and that's good. As time goes by, wages will increase, and if prices remain flat, eventually homes will become more affordable. Does this happen overnight? No. Remember, it took years to get into this mess, and it's going to take years to get out of it. There is no magic bullet. It's going to take time. If you're on the sideline, don't get discouraged. Keep saving. Keep educating yourself. Don't give up. Keep working on your credit. Pay your bills, and eventually your time will come. Let's take a look at home prices over the past 10 years. In June of 2025, the median closed sales price in Douglas and Sarpy County was $338,000. In June of 2024, the median closed sales price was $339,450. In June of 2023, the median closed sales price was $335,000. In June of 2022, the median closed sales price was $310,000. In June of 2021, the median closed sales price was $265,000. In June of 2020, the median closed sales price was $233,000. In June of 2019, the median closed sales price was $227,750. In June of 2018, it was $210,000. In June of 2017, the median closed sales price was $192,000. In June of 2016, it was $184,250. 10 years ago, in June of 2015, the median closed sales price in Douglas and Sarpy County was $180,000. This graph also shows a lot of peaks and valleys. Typically, prices tend to peak in the summer months. And why is that? Families like to plan their move around school. Larger homes tend to close in the summer months because families like to move when the kids are out of school. This fall, like any fall, prices will decrease. It happens every year. That is why you look year over year. You never look at home prices month to month because every month you're going to have variation. Now, if we take this 10-year graph and look at the 12-month rolling average, this is going to smooth out that graph and take out seasonality. And what you see is in the last 6 months, prices have started to level off. People want to know what prices will do. Are prices going to crash? Should I wait for prices to come down? Now, for folks who think the market is going to tank or prices are going to come down substantially, let's go ahead and max out this chart. Go back and look at home prices during the great financial crisis. Did prices crash? Nope. They stayed relatively flat for several years. Now, there was a slight decrease, but relatively speaking, prices remained relatively flat for close to 7 years. Do I think prices will go up? No. However, I can see prices remaining flat. I think it's possible that prices could decrease slightly, but the key word is slightly. Anyone who thinks prices are going back to pre-pandemic levels is living on Fantasy Island. Mr. York himself couldn't make prices go back to those levels. However, anything is possible. If prices did tank like that in the Omaha market, something massive would have had to have happened for that to occur. And you're talking about massive layoffs. And that's not what is occurring in our marketplace. If you look at what's going on, you have people, pretty smart people, looking at Omaha and seeing opportunity. We have the airport expansion. We have the Mutual of Omaha skyscraper being built. Google and Facebook making massive investments. We have the Med Center expansion. Omaha is growing, and every day I'm talking to people moving to the Omaha area. If you're considering moving to Omaha, feel free to reach out. When you call, you'll be talking to me, not someone else. My goal is to help guide you through the process. What do you think prices will do? I would be interested in your thoughts on home prices. Do you think they'll go up? Do you think they'll level off? Or do you think they'll go down? Let me know in the comment section below. If prices do go down, does that mean you should wait for prices to bottom out? No. I'm never a proponent of trying to time the market. Buy a home when you're ready, when you have at least a 5-year time frame. If you buy a home and prices remain flat and you have to sell 1 or 2 years later, guess what? You're going to lose money. Depending on how much you came in with down payment, you might even have to write a check in order to sell your home. Now let's look at closed sales. Sales continue to be depressed. Last month, we closed 1,062 homes in Douglas and Sarpy County. That's up 0.5% compared to 2024. Sales are down because of affordability. I also believe that we have some sellers who would like to sell, but they have a 3% interest rate, so they don't want to trade a 3% interest rate for a 6.5% interest rate. This is known as the golden handcuffs. However, in any market, homes are still going to be sold. This is a life event market. People are still going to get married, have babies, get divorced, and pass away. Life events create real estate transactions. If we look at closed sales over the past 5 years, we see sales depressed from the days of the pandemic. We also see the market has ebbs and flows that follow the seasons. Most sales peak during the summer months. Then as we move into fall, sales decrease. During the winter, sales bottom out. And then in the spring, the number of closed sales ramps up. That occurs in any market. Right now, we just don't see the volume of closed sales. Sales are down. However, I think there are plenty of buyers and sellers out there who would like to transact, but they're forced to the sidelines either because of affordability or because of the golden handcuffs. Let's take a moment and talk about interest rates. The current 30-year fixed rate mortgage interest rate is right around 6.71%. When are rates going to come back down? When rates decrease, homes become more affordable. When a home is sold, it helps the economy. Roughly 15 to 18% of U.S. GDP is linked to housing-related activity. When homes are sold, it helps the economy. When will rates come down? That's the million-dollar question. Rates were increased in order to slow down inflation. The Federal Reserve has 2 mandates: price stability and maximum employment. Price stability means keeping inflation low and stable. The Fed currently aims for around a 2% inflation rate. Right after the pandemic, we had runaway inflation. They had to put the brakes on the economy in order to tame inflation. They do that by increasing the Fed funds rate. Let's look at inflation over the past 5 years. Now that the inflation appears to be under control, President Trump wants Jerome Powell to take his foot off the brake and lower the federal funds rate. The Federal Reserve is old and slow. Remember a few years back when they did raise rates, we were told inflation was transitory. Well, that didn't work out so well. They should have raised rates sooner. Now we're on the other end of the spectrum. If they're too slow to lower rates, then that could push us into recession. We've already had 1 negative quarter of GDP. If we have another negative quarter of GDP, then that would technically be a recession. Right now, with everybody on the edge and with everybody kind of sitting on the sidelines, and with how slow things are in terms of sales, it feels like we're already in a recession. Now, I'm drifting into the world of politics. Chairman Powell kept rates higher because if President Trump instituted massive tariffs, then they were concerned about that being inflationary. Now, it's hard to say where all of this is going to shake out. Powell might be looking at things and say, hey, inflation is good and employment is good. Let's keep things the way they are. Now, President Trump wants to fire Powell, and so there's a lot of political things in play here. What does all of this mean if you're buying a home right now? Make sure you can afford the home at whatever interest rate you obtain. I would like rates to fall, but there's no guarantee. Now, do I think rates will go down a tad? Yes, I do. I don't think they'll go down much. If we head into recession, then I think they may come down a little bit more. Let's take a look at the unemployment numbers. For the United States, the U.S. unemployment rate was 3.9%, which is up from 3.5% in 2024. For Douglas County, we are at 3.2% compared to 3% in 2024. For Sarpy County, we are at 2.8% versus 2.4% from a year ago.